Welcome back, super creators. Anna here, and today we're talking about how to color a sketchbook sketch in Photoshop. We're gonna go through finding a reference image, sketching, scanning, or taking a photograph for the best possible result, as well as how to paint it digitally so you get all the texture left in your work, and a secret tip at the end that will just add that little bit of extra mwah to your drawing. I really hope you enjoyed this video. And by the way, you can use these tips on almost any digital art software. So not to worry if you don't have Photoshop. This just happens to be the software I use currently. Are you ready? Let's go. All right, so first step would be to choose a reference image that we want to work with. Maybe you already have one. If not, a good place to go is Unsplash. It's one of the few places that I like going to look for reference images. I'll make sure to make a video about that. If you're interested where you can find reference images, let me know. But for today, I'm just going to scroll down and choose a reference image from one of the newly added photographs. Once I find the one I like, and it will be this one for today, I'm going to download it or just keep this open and let's get to drawing. All right, so what I'll be using today for a sketch is just a regular sketchbook with white paper, nothing special, as well as this pencil, and I have this fancy eraser. And now let's dive right in. Funny thing, I haven't drawn in my sketchbook for probably over a year now. I used to like doing these sketches and then adding color on them through digital media. So it does feel a little bit weird, but also pretty exciting, to be honest. I let the medium do its job, so it's messy, it's smudgy, but guess what? I love it. Now that the drawings are complete, the step 2 is to take a photo or to scan. One way is to, of course, just pull out your camera on your phone and take some pictures. But I want to show you what not to do and how you can improve your photography in case you wanted to post it on Instagram. So for example, this is a poorly lit photograph. We need something better. This one's a little bit better, but you still see the shadow from the phone. So it is also a no-go. Now, instead of doing these two, what we can do is put it in front of light. The sunlight coming from your room's window will work. And now it's at least evenly lit. Or what we can do for some interest is to even rotate the camera or the sketchbook a little bit and just make it a little more exciting. What's even better is to show the tools that you used to work on this piece. That adds a little something special to the image. Also, don't be afraid to use whatever you find in your room that suits your sketch. In this case, I moved the sketchbook to a different table and I added some flowers. I think it really brought the piece together. So I'm going to use this photograph and color it in Photoshop. Another thing you can do is if you have a home scanner, you can scan your sketch and have it on your computer to work with. Or you can take your sketchbook, bring it to the light, download a cam scanner app on your phone or whatever app you find, and take a photo with that app. This app will scan it for you. It will look pretty cool. Then just share it, send it to yourself, to your computer, and you can work with that. That's if you don't have a scanner. Just a very quick option to go with. Either way works. Just make sure you know what exactly you're using your sketch for, because these two different options will have a very different result at the end. All right, now that we have our sketch and we have our photographs of it or a scan, it's up to you. I'm going to open Photoshop and create a new file. I like working in poster size, so 18 by 24 and 300 dpi. So I'll just continue working in that. And now I'm going to upload the 2 shots I have. And I can just drop them in and it automatically sizes them. This one I will rotate while holding Shift so it snaps to the point. And now, right now, it says width is at 32%. So when we scale this, we're not actually making the quality worse. Just because it's a huge size of the photograph, it's actually going to turn out really nice. I feel like this is the best composition for right now, so I'm just going to keep it at that. And we have our 2 options. I'm also going to resize the scan. Now I can rasterize the layer of the scan because I want to get rid of the mark. And there we go. So I feel like if you were to scan the drawing and then color it in, it's more like for your reference. And then the other one is more interesting, more traditional, and you can even fake some traditional media on there. So if I wanted to post this on Instagram and I wanted to color it in first, I'd probably start a new layer on top. I would definitely never work on the same layer because I don't want to ruin it, and I want to also play with different layer options that we have available for us. In this case, I would like to try overlay. And now is a good time to pick a brush. I have a few brushes that I created. I feel like I want to try the fuzzy brush. It kind of has that light tone to it, so that could turn out really pretty. The reason why I chose overlay is because I want to get started while still keeping all of the texture intact while I'm drawing. But then later on, I can go on top, I can go over it and just add everything else that I need. With overlay though, I have to make sure that I choose the colors correctly. And even though if this was a normal layer, I'd probably like this color, when it's overlay, it's very different. We could also do multiply, which actually turns out pretty nice. So I'd suggest playing with both and seeing what works best for you. I think I'm going to keep it at multiply for now, and let's see where it takes us. So this was my step one. I just colored in these two shapes like so. It obviously looks super cool because we do have these original sketchy pencil lines. And I also used an eraser that is soft brush, and I erased some of the ends where the illustration kind of fades away. And now we can actually go over everything here and finally add some color. One of the ways I could do it is create a new layer, have a clipping mask, and then when I paint on top of it, it's not going to leave anything that's on this layer. Now with these clipped layers, I can also create different overlay, screen, whatever layer I want, just so I don't lose everything on here. So what I'm doing right now is that I alpha locked this layer and I'm just changing the colors on it. I added one overlay layer because I wanted to add some more colors here and there. Another layer we can play with is actually called screen. And then with this layer, we can add some beautiful highlights. Hey, are you enjoying the video so far? I really hope so. If you do, subscribe to my channel for more content like this. Also, smash that like button and hit the notification bell icon so you don't miss any of my future videos. Thank you so much. And now let's go back to the fun. Now, for those of you who like drawing with pencil and then painting on top of it with watercolor or acrylics, you already know that it's a very cool thing to have a white gel pen. So then you can go on top of some of the lines and add that white gel pen. So let's do that now. I'm just going to create a new layer and it's going to be a normal layer. I will pick some brush, like this pencil brush. And I'm going to select white color. I don't want it completely white, so we're gonna go a little bit of white. And now I'll add a few highlights here and there to emphasize everything. And that just added that extra level of beauty. But I'm going to go on top of all of the layers and I'm going to create one where I add the white to other spots and then I'll decide whether or not I want to keep it, because I definitely want to keep these highlights. They just add that extra punch. But do I want more? Let's find out. I do find it very pretty, so I'm just going to keep all of those highlights. Now finally, what if you want to clean up some of those rough lines or some messiness like we have here or here or here? What do? Well, one of those solutions could be that you just create a layer on top of everything and select the color that you want to be working with and just go over some of these lines to clean it up. But then at this point, it really turns into a digital painting. So whether or not you want to do that, it is up to you. Another option would be to choose a different color and have the outline. Again, we're going more of like the digital painting route at this point and not traditional that much, but we can have a different color, for example, and just go over all those lines and continue working through it. You can even pick some colors from the actual sketchbook and then just get rid of those sketch lines. I will not be continuing this because that's not something that I would like to do. If I want to do a digital painting, I'm just going to create the sketch digitally. But if you're creating your sketch just so you can take it to your digital software and then paint on top of it, this is kind of what I would go for. I would just start to pick colors from every place on the canvas and start to clean it up little by little, make it look super pretty. But then in that case, you can honestly just go with the scan that we did, because that will just allow you to have where to sketch. You just place your colors fast, and then on top of that, you would go and start painting. But if you go as far as to create a beautiful pictures to paint on top of, I feel like maybe sometimes you would not want to get rid of those sketchy lines and you would want to keep them. But there is still a way for us to clean it up. So I'm going to duplicate this layer with a photograph, and I'm actually going to rasterize it, because one of the things that we could have done at the beginning was to adjust this photograph a little bit. And by adjust it a little bit, I mean just going to image, adjustment, and curves. And then you can play around with it to make it pop more. So adding more light, adding more shadows, that really is up to your personal preference. Hit OK, and here we have it. It looks a little bit better, I think, because it has that more of that brightness. What we can also do is go to image adjustments, hue and saturation, and then make the photograph itself less saturated. We can make it yellow, which I don't suggest, or we can make it desaturated. Hit OK. And this is the difference. And of course, it affects all of the colors because these colors are on layers that depend on the original image. So I like this way more. I'm going to keep it, but I'm going to duplicate it again so I could show you how to get rid of some of these things that you don't want. One of the best ways, I think, is by using a stamp tool. It's right here. It's called Clone Stamp Tool. So basically you select a part that you want with holding Alt, and that changes your cursor. So let's say I want this part, I hit on it, and then when I go on top of the things I don't want, I'm kind of covering it. The reason why I'm doing this and not just by color picking is because there's a specific texture that I want to keep. Don't forget to keep picking because the colors on the photograph are different everywhere. If I pick here and start coloring here, you can see a very visible difference. So make sure to pick close by so that it's almost impossible to see. So I think that's pretty good. Let's check. So we still have the rough quality of the pencil, but it is a little bit sharper. It is a little bit cleaner because we just cleaned it up. And I definitely think it looks really cool. And there you have it. We went from this photograph to this painting. I hope you enjoyed it, and I think it's pretty easy to do, so I'm sure you'll be able to experiment ASAP. Now, if we wanted to paint on top of this because we just created the sketch and now we want it to be a complete full digital painting so that nothing from here is left except the original idea, the way I would get started is, of course, you just create a new layer, and then you start painting on top of it and you just cover everything. At the beginning, you can still hit multiply so that you still see those lines. And then with time, you go ahead and cover it with other colors so that it basically, the lines disappear. Another way you can get started with this is by selecting the scan, rasterizing it like I showed you before, and then going to image adjustments, hue and saturation, and then picking colorize. So that takes the black lines and we can make the saturation very high and we can choose any color we want. And I'm sure that's going to look really interesting when you start playing with all of the colors. because now instead of the black, we kind of have this weird blackish red that we can work with. And you can lower the opacity of the layer and then just paint on top. And so you get the whole idea. You just treat it as a digital sketch, except you did it traditionally, so now you want to use it for your digital painting. One of the cool things about this is that you can do with it whatever you want. You get the point. So this is another way you can use your sketches in digital painting, but I definitely prefer this way simply because I love that it keeps the texture and you get to compose the drawing in the camera before you even move it to Photoshop. You get to choose the angle and the lighting and all the props, and then it just keeps this incredible quality at the end. It even kind of looks like watercolor, I'd say, because you can really see all of the texture from the sketchbook. And this is just a very regular paper. Imagine drawing on watercolor paper and then using it for your digital painting. This is so much fun. And of course, at any point in time, you can just create a new layer on top and cover all of the line art. If you don't like it, cover your sketch completely. But I do prefer this way. I hope you will give it a shot. And of course, the way my digital paintings end always, I will actually make a copy of this group, merge the group. So now I have this on a separate layer. I'm going to go to filter, camera raw filter, and now I can just play around a little bit more with what the final product actually looks like. And here is where you get to finally have a little bit more final fun, adjusting the contrast, the highlights, the brightness, saturation, colors, and everything else you want to adjust, and just make it look really the way you want it to. Have fun with it. And click OK. Now, if you look at the before and after, I definitely like the after more. It has that extra little punch that I really enjoy. And that's just a little neat thing that I do after I finish any painting. Hey, did you enjoy the content? I really hope so. And if you did, consider subscribing, liking, and leave a comment down below letting me know what other kind of content you would like for me to make. Thank you so much for watching. And before you go, check out these two playlists.